Hello, welcome back to the next question and response that I'm sharing today. And this one is quite a simple question, and I guess it's got a fairly simple response. Let's see where we go with it. So the question is, why does that question, am I aware, not stick in my mind to ask? So this is somebody who's been reading the Complete Book of Awakening. And they got in touch because they noticed how they, understandably, were getting caught up and identified with the mind and with the world and with relationships. And they were asking questions of themselves. So they were asking more enlightenment kind of questions, that is this true? Is this really how it is? In fact, they also had a question that they'd shared, which was, am I being separate? Am I being a separate self right now? And so what I'd suggested in response was to switch that question into, am I aware? And that's what prompted this from them to say, well, oh God, yeah, of course, that question. Why does that, am I aware, not stick in my mind? Why does that not keep being a thing to ask myself? So for me, the reason that's the case is because the mind doesn't want us to look. So when I say the mind as if the mind's a living entity. Let me talk about it a little bit more accurately. So when we are identified as the mind, and therefore as this person, as this character, we instantly feel terrible because we've forgotten who we really are. That which is this infinite, incredible, loving and capable of everything capacity, to believe we're some limited person and just this character and only able to do this or that or the other, that feels terrible because it's so out of alignment with who we are. And that's the perfection of it, because by feeling terrible, it's the opportunity to have us go, hang on, this doesn't feel right. I want to feel better than this, and starts us on that seeking journey to find ourselves again, to return back home, to return to those good feelings. And for most of us who've come into this exploration, we've tried all sorts of different routes, first of all, to try and find that good feeling, until ultimately it led us to this exploration, the one that finds us the most reliable space of that good feeling, the only space of that good feeling. And so great, because we've at least started to recognize that there's nothing out there, there's nobody out there that could ever provide the lasting good feelings that we know to be available to us. And so we start to look for that within ourselves. We start to look to that essential nature we are, because that is the good feelings. That is what we've been looking for. So it's perfect in that that identification with the mind, the feeling of contraction, and therefore the tension that's created and the desire to return back to the feeling of ourself. Now, as much as when we're in that contracted state, the mind, the thoughts that run are of the form of, I want to feel better, I want this to go, I want to feel peaceful, I want to feel happy, I want to feel contented, I want to feel safe and secure, I want to feel loved, and some more superficial versions of that, I want them to be different, I want that situation to change, I want that job. But really beneath the surface stuff, what we're wanting is peace, contentment, love, the feeling of safety, the feeling of security, the feeling of groundedness. So in that contraction, those thoughts run saying, I want all those good feelings. But as we start to explore, it is as though, now the mind isn't a living entity, but it is as though the mind can see that the exploration into the truth of who we are is interpreted at least as, well, what will my job be then? If I'm not needed anymore, if they realize that all the good feelings is the feeling of themselves, well, what do I do? What's my job? I don't want them to look there. They might realize that all this effort I've been going to has been futile. They might realize that all these thoughts I've been running are not the answer and are not where salvation is, and are not where good feelings are. So it is, and I'm obviously personifying something which isn't alive, not in the sentient sense of the word, but it is as though that's happening. It is as though this mind thinks it's going to be made redundant if we keep looking to the truth of who we are. Now, in reality, that's not what happens, because what actually happens is that as we deepen into the recognition of who we are, and we disidentify from the mind as being essential and 100% who we are, and disidentify from the character being absolutely who we are, we naturally then shift our orientation into how things already are working, have been working, are designed to work, which is that we start as ourself, the source of all creation and the source of all ideas and the source of all doing and the source of all possibilities. Then the mind is amazing as a servant to that. The mind is amazing at bringing in thoughts and ideas and, oh, remember this experience, and oh, check out that book, and have you gone on that course, and bringing in all that brilliant structure and expertise which enables what wants to be created to come into reality. It's like that's this mind is the brilliant partner for that creation, to bring it into the world, to bring it into form. So the mind doesn't get made redundant. It doesn't lose its job. Its job just changes. And in fact, its job changes into one which is much more suited to its capability. So if you've ever worked in an organization where you've seen, or perhaps you yourself have been promoted into a leadership role that you or that person you saw they weren't really capable of, but it's kind of like it's the only route that often organizations have to be able to recognize people and reward them more highly. So we have all over the place, we have people who were great at their operational role, but who got promoted into a senior leadership role because that was all there was to do with them, and then they struggle because that's not their thing, that's not their bag, that's not their design, that's not where they're their best. And if you've then also been in a situation where, again, whether it's you or whether it's someone you know, if they've then been returned to an operational role, oh, the relief and the freedom, and then the capacity to do an amazing job in this operational role, which is absolutely their thing. That's absolutely their design and their talent and their bag. And so it's the same with the mind. It's been over promoted into thinking it's the thing, it's running the show, it's the boss. It's not. It was always the servant. It was always designed to be the servant. In our innocent promotion of it, to try and make it into a leader, it's been struggling. The mind's been working really hard to try and do what it's not actually designed to do. It's been trying to act like a leader when it's not. It's a brilliant operational delivery person. So as much as the mind doesn't want us to look to the truth of who we are, and hence it won't encourage the question to arise of, am I aware? Because it thinks that means I'm going to be redundant. As we keep asking, then increasingly it's seen that, oh, this feels much better. Oh yeah, things go a lot easier when I start from the groundedness of myself and then come into utilization of the mind and into delivery of whatever it is that wants to be done. Oh yeah, that's much nicer. Oh yeah, that feels in alignment. Oh yeah, that feels like it's natural, like it's how it's meant to be. And so with that increasing evidence, then the mind settles and settles and settles, and increasingly takes up its natural role of operational delivery support. And life awareness, who we are, obviously stands in its role as leader, as seeing the right thing to do for this right moment with its holistic perspective. And so then it's a shift, it's a increasing shift from trying to lead with the mind into returning to leading as ourself. And the mind is a brilliant support for that. It's a brilliant servant for that. So yes, it makes perfect sense that the question, am I aware, initially doesn't arise to be asked, because that mind that we've been identified with thinks that first its answers are right and its questions are right, and it thinks that if you were to keep asking that, oh no, don't look there, you're going to catch me out, you're going to see that I'm not actually capable of the job I've been doing, oh no, don't look at that. So it really makes perfect sense that in the early stages, the desire for that question to be asked isn't available. And so there is an element of, I don't know what it is, but something encourages the continued exploration. Well, who we are encourages that continued exploration. It drives us forward, draws us towards the next thing, so that gradually that question and that desire to genuinely look and see, am I aware? What is it that's aware of this experience right now? That becomes a more familiar, comfortable, recognized, valuable, important question to ask. And so bit by bit, we make that shift from identification with the mind to remembering the identification that we have always and only ever been. And then the mind can play its rightful role secondary to that in its amazing operational capability space. So tell me if that resonates for you. Tell me if that makes sense for you. Have you seen this in your experience? Does that land? Do you feel the relief of that mind not having to be leader? Because it never was. It never was. It was trying to do a job it was never really doing. And do you see that bit by bit, that question will arise, or some variation of am I aware will arise, to gradually deepen you into the recognition of who you really are? I'd love to hear your experience. Do drop something below in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you next time.